Hello, everyone. It's Sunday once again. Actually, last Thursday, it was the third year anniversary of Ask the Drummer. I can't believe it. It's like 3 years of doing Ask the Drummer on Facebook or online. And it was the 1st of August in 2021 when I first did the first episode of Ask the Drummer with Chris Quinn and Paul Quinn of the All Kids. They were absolutely amazing. I'm forever grateful to the Quinn brothers and, of course, all the awesome drummers who've been on the show because it's such a wonderful opportunity. They've given me this amazing opportunity to actually show my love and appreciation for all the amazing drummers out there. They're just the coolest people on this planet, and they really deserve to, you know, for us music fans to know more about them. But anyways, it's now gone 1 minute past 2 in the UK, and it's 1 minute past one in at night. Sorry, 1 minute past 9 o'clock in the evening in Manila. Welcome to another episode of Ask the Drummer. This is now the fourth year. We're entering the fourth year of Ask the Drummer. And I was talking about drummers that, we don't really get to know about them because most of the time, when journalists write about a band, it's mainly the singers or the guitarists. But today's guest, I'm really excited about because he's done so much. He's really done a lot of things, but I hardly know him. I mean, it's only last February when I went to see Paul Simpson that I got to meet him. And it's all thanks to massive shout out to Ned Murphy of Rain for introducing me to him. But anyways, yeah, I'm really glad that he said yes to Ask the Drummer. And I'm so looking forward to finding out more about him. He's such a prolific drummer and ubiquitous, according to Christine Phillips. Thanks for that word. And I must add, enigmatic as well. In fact, this drummer is so prolific that someone actually said it would be a lot easier to list the bands that he's not played in. And again, I'm so glad he's here. So, my dear friends, I mean, I've said too much already, but my dear friends, please welcome Joe McKechnie.
Hello. How are you diddling?
How are you, Joe?
I'm all right. I'm okay.
Yeah. In fact, again, thanks to Ned Murphy, but in fact, we've actually already had a communication before meeting you personally because you're on Facebook. You're actually quite active on Facebook, but you're called Manly Belch.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
That dates back to a pub called the Grapes in Liverpool on Mount Street, which is still going strong. But some friends opened it who came here from Germany to go to Lippe. Spotted the pub nearby and opened it, and I used to DJ in there. Anyway, it was around the time that the internet, the lovely internet that does so much good in the world, started becoming available, and they had a computer in the pub on the end of the bar, and you could go on the internet for free when most people didn't have internet access at home. So yeah. we all got our email names whilst drunk in a pub. So my first hotmail address was manlybelch@hotmail.
Oh, I see.
After a very manly burp that I did in the pub. So happy to clear that one up.
No, I thought it was actually like a real name because I do have another friend on Facebook.
It's actually Lord Manly Belch.
Lord Manly. Well, he's in the Philippines, so I think he's of Chinese origin, and he's called Manly.
Oh, okay.
So I thought maybe that's actually a real name.
You thought we were related?
Manly Belch. But anyways, I'm really glad that you're here because Steve Bowell actually said it's about time that I have you on. So yeah, I do agree. Thank you so much. So
Just gonna get my glasses.
all right. Sorry, I've just got. Where is it? I don't know. Sorry about that. Huh? I don't know. I don't know where it is. Oh, there it goes.
Oh, there's one. Anyway.
All right.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one.
Okay. Sorry about that, Joe.
That's
It's
okay.
my text. Yeah, my tech support looking for his glasses. So
yeah. Essential parts of tech.
yeah. So right. I'm so like I mean I don't know where to start now because
Let's go back to the very, very beginning.
yeah. Well, that event, the Paul Simpson one, and you were talking about the grapes as well, because you know the first time I met Paul Simpson in real life was at the Grapes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in Liverpool.
Yeah.
And you went to meet up with Jeff Young recently, and also Jeff Young was there as well because you know
Yes.
Paul Simpson and Jeff Young, they're best friends, aren't they?
Yeah, Jeff and I work together on. He does spoken word excerpts from his writing, and I do the music.
Yeah.
We're just preparing to do some tracks for his next book, Wild Twin, which is out in September.
Oh, okay. So it's going to be accompanied by like music. So it's music.
Yeah. We've done two projects so far. We did one release based on an essay that Jeff wrote about all the cinemas that used to be in Liverpool, and then he did a rough trade pamphlet called Extraordinaire, and we released a couple of tracks within reading from that. And now Wild Twin is his follow-up to his first book, Ghost Town.
And is there going to be a launch event
for
this book?
There's a launch event for the book in Oh Me Oh My, where we met, the Paul Simpson thing, on the 25th of September. That's for the book. Jeff also does artwork and collage, and he's got an exhibition coming up for Dorothy, who are down in the Baltic Triangle area, and we're hoping to do some live readings, and I'll do a bit of DJ and provide some music for that. And it'll be an exhibition of his collage work that comes with the books. But that's not confirmed yet.
So that's all coming up in September. Hopefully.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, before we actually start the interview, is Neil Broad said.
Oh yeah.
He wanted me to ask you if you can play one of those short, fast numbers, but I don't think you've got your drum kit set up with you now, have you?
Yeah, see, it's a reference to one of the heckles that I shout out at gigs to groups to play shorter, faster ones.
Oh, so is he a musician himself, Neil Broad?
Not at all. No. If you'd seen him dance, you'd realise he hasn't got the rhythm that you need to be a musician.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome to Ask the Drummer.
Let's go.
Yay. Episode 137 is all about you, Joe McKechnie.
Yeah.
Is Joe short for something like Joseph or?
Yeah, just Joseph. Yeah.
Joseph.
Yeah.
I know that you don't like Joey. You don't like me.
No, that's just that I had that name on a couple of early record appearances just because it was so close to leaving school, and it was my school name. What people call me in school, but so I kind of hung around for a year or so after I left school.
Okay, so yeah. So you prefer Joe and not Joey? Yeah.
Or Mr. McKechnie.
Oh, Mr. McKechnie, okay. Because I remember sort of like posting it on Facebook because I saw a Modern 7-inch single pieces.
Yeah,
It's the first one, I think, and it says on the back it's Joey McKechnie. So
yeah.
Joey McKechnie, but it was
No, if anyone says it or puts it on social media, it's an excuse for my older friends to revive that name. So I try and nip it in the bud before they can say,
oh.
well, someone else called you that, so why can't I?
Right.
That's the type of friends I've got.
McKechnie is it's not a very common surname, is it? Where are the McKechnies from?
Ireland or Scotland. I've never quite been able to track it down, to be honest. My mum and dad are both known as being of Irish descent, but my dad's name is more Scottish. And I was in Greenock, which is on the coast near Glasgow, a few years ago, and realised that the name McKechnie was all over Greenock. You know, there was streets and shops and gravestones. There's a lot of McKechnies up there, but so I don't know.
Yeah, but you were born in Liverpool.
Yes. Yeah.
What was your Liverpool like at the time? Because I assume you were like a teenager in the late 70s and early 80s. It must have been like
early 70s. Oh yeah, somewhere around
there. And that's like I think the most exciting time to be a teenager in Liverpool around that period.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because after leaving school and around just as punk was happening, I left the kind of the social life I had been living with the people I grew up with and went to school with and all that. Most of whom, there was only one friend, Frank, who had the same interest in the same music as me. Everyone else was more into petty crime and being bad. So that wasn't great, and then so punk happened, and kind of punk brought me into the city centre where I hadn't spent much time previously, and introduced me to what became my lifelong friends. But look, thinking about it recently, I wonder if I didn't just think that the whole thing, that was the whole explosion and energy that was punk, whether that was just something that happened when you left school because you joined the adult world. That it was just like, oh, this is great, but this is what happens all the time, But it was only retrospectively you think about it. I was like, how unique it was, and how lucky you were to be there at that time,
Yeah, of course. Are you from a musical family?
Yes, my brother played in bands, groups. I mean, the first live music I heard was my brother's. I know because there's quite a big age gap between me and the rest of my brothers and sisters. I'm quite young. I'm the youngest, and there's quite a few years between me and them. So my brother was kind of playing in country and western groups when there was quite a big country and western.
Hello? I can't hear. I think there's just something wrong with this microphone. Get back to. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. So it's your microphone then.
I've got a little old analog valve preamp which overheats, and it decided to switch itself off.
Oh God! Is it one of those like tube.
Yeah, it's got tubes in it. Yeah, yeah.
That's what sort like some people prefer when they're playing their records, right? It's
Yeah,
almost like
it's for recording guitar and vocals in my studio here. But yeah, it's because it's so hot today, and I've closed all the doors so that there's no exterior sound coming in while we're speaking.
oh right.
I'm in quite a hot room.
Okay, but everything's fine now, so it's
Yeah, I've got it back on.
put it back on. All right. Well, yeah, because my tech support just said that slight problem with the mic, but yeah, we're back on. We're
Yeah.
okay now. Yeah. So we were talking about your
Yeah,
musical
so
family.
my brother went under the name Carl Fenton. He was in a group called Carl Fenton 4. There was quite a big country music scene in Liverpool and in Britain as a whole. In like end of the 60s, early 70s, you know, there was a country music festival that used to be held at Wembley Stadium every year. You know, and so my brother's group were quite big in the Liverpool country scene, and they used to practice in the front room of my mum's house. So I used to sit there as a child with a live group playing in front of
Oh,
me when I was,
yeah.
you know, 5, 6, 7, or whatever, 8. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And then my first Saturday job, you know, when you need an extra bit of pocket money at school, was roadieing for my brother's group when he was playing the pubs and clubs of Liverpool. I used to
Okay.
roadie, so that's how I saved up enough money to buy my first drum kit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I didn't know about the sort of like
Yeah, I
country.
mean, my brother's group recorded in Strawberry. He recorded a single in
Strawberry
Strawberry
Studios
in Stockport. Yeah,
in
and the
Stockport.
guy,
Yeah.
yeah, you'll know it.
Yeah.
And yes, so they recorded the single, and it was one of the guys from 10cc. I think 2 of them own the studio,
Yeah.
who engineered and recorded them. You know,
Okay.
um,
Well, what's
so they
that's the name of the band? What's the name of the band again?
Carl Fenton 4, I think. But
Oh,
basically, what happened was they pressed the single up. They had the single pressed, and they had like 4-part harmony in the group, and one of the group members decided his vocals were out of tune and destroyed all the copies of the record before they even played it to anyone. So
oh
yeah,
God,
I
no.
think they test like 500 copies or something, and he destroyed the lot. You know.
So it's very different from the punk scene then. So from what you sort of like started listening to or watching them rehearse at your mum's house.
Yeah, I was listening to Hank
Yeah,
Williams and Johnny Cash, and some they did some of their own numbers that my brother wrote and things like that. But that
yeah,
was my fit, which has been interwoven into certain parts of what I've done ever since.
yeah,
There's been country elements coming into a few of the bands I've been in.
yeah. Uh, Obviously they had a drummer as well. So
Yeah, so I was sat right. We're talking in a very, just enough room to fit everyone in the room. So I was kind of sat on the floor very close to the drum kit, and I just was. So that was the thing that caught my attention, the drums. So that's how I.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Because I got
would you say that was your so like the reason why you got into drumming?
yes, and then I got a drum kit second hand from a pigeon fancier's social club, where like the social club scene where they have a little cabaret group where they just have an organ player and a drummer to back
Oh,
any singers that might appear. They were getting rid of a drum kit, and so I saved up my roadie and money, bought the drum kit,
yeah.
and then played it in the back bedroom of my mum's house with blankets over them, skins to keep them quiet.
Yeah.
So I played along to the best of 3, the blue and red Beatles LPs, and the first Clash LP, all playing back on a tiny little mono cassette player, and I tapped along to them.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Well, I
And
know
that's
that
how I learned to
you.
play the drums.
I know that you also play other musical instruments. So, but
Yeah,
you were attracted to the drum kit. You know, you straight
yeah,
away. Or
just because I sat too close to them, essentially,
too close to.
while someone was playing them. If I'd have sat next to the near to the guitarist, would have that would have been the first instrument.
when when you had your drum kit, your first drum kit, did you go for any lessons, or you just saw like
No, I literally played along to cassettes on next to the drum kit with
yeah.
blankets over all the skins to kind of keep them quiet, so I could hear this tiny little cassette player I was
Oh,
playing.
so you never got any complaints from the neighbors? So like
Yeah. I was.
you did?
I had a hammer held over my head by the son of the next door neighbour, threatening to put it through my head if I carried on drumming.
No, no. Oh dear.
Yeah, I mean the thing was they only knew that I was playing the drums when they went out. We're going back to the time when people still had their toilet in their backyard, and if someone went to the toilet, they would be able to hear me drumming because from outside, but they couldn't. They didn't know. They just like complaining basically. They couldn't hear me inside the house, but they could hear me outside the house. But they
Oh, I
still. So
see.
this is what you got to do if you want to get into
Yeah.
showbiz. So,
You know
answering my first ad at the end of 1977 in the back of Sound newspaper for a musicians wanted advertisements, in the small ads,
yeah.
got me out the house, and I
Uh-huh.
joined my first group.
Do you know what you said about so like in the past, people had sort of like toilets at the back or so like outside the house. I mean, it was like that in the Philippines for some of us, but I didn't
Yeah.
realize that even in the UK it was like that as well.
Oh
Like,
yeah. I mean, where we lived was my dad worked on the docks,
yeah,
um, so we lived in like houses that were for the dockers near the docks, So they were very small and very utilitarian.
right. Oh, that's interesting. That so you taught yourself how to play the drums.
Yeah.
Someone actually, again from your Facebook page, someone said that you're a left-handed drummer. Like
Yes.
it was like Ringo, isn't it? Ringo's a left-handed
Yeah,
drummer.
but because he didn't have access to left-handed drum kits, he learned the wrong way around, which I nearly did on the guitar. When I started playing the guitar, I
Yeah,
started picking up the rudiments by borrowing right-handed guitar players' guitars, and I was learning the wrong way. So I quickly had to realise if I was going to get stuck, So I think Ringo basically got stuck by playing on right-handed kits. He got used to playing that
yeah,
way,
yeah. I'd see.
which
It's like
served him well because just by leading off on your drum rolls with the wrong hand makes you sound different to everyone else.
that's incredible. I only found out about the difference between so like a right-handed drum kit or a left-handed drum kit. So like when I'm doing as the drummer, because you look at the drum kit, you think that it's the same. They all have a sort of like basic things. I mean, of
Yeah,
course, you see other drummers, it's got loads of different bits, so like attached to it. But the basic
yeah,
thing, I didn't realize that there's actually a left-handed one and a right-handed. So,
yeah.
oh, that's absolutely amazing. So, um, you have now. This is when we're gonna be sort of like random now, because I know that you have played in so many bands
Too many
and
bands. You're right. You are right. I've played in too many groups.
but before I did say to you that for this week, because I have to tell everybody that Joe is going to be coming back next week because he's played in too many bands that we can't really fit it in. So, like, just one episode. It's got to be 2 episodes. And
Yeah.
I have mentioned to
Although
you.
I'm not necessarily going to go into great depth with some of them, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. I did mention that for this week, I would like to just concentrate on all the Liverpool bands that you played in. And then
Yes.
next week, we're going to go to, because I know that you're actually in the Passage as well, which I
Yeah.
realized is a Manchester band.
Yeah.
And you played in other Manchester bands as well. And all the other different bands, not from Liverpool. We're going to talk about that next week. So,
Yeah. Bit of
so we're going
London
to
in there.
we're gonna start with all the Liverpool bands that you
Yeah.
played in. But I want to ask you, the first question I wanted to ask you is, what was your first band? And I assume it was a Liverpool band. That was your first band.
Yes. Yeah. I answered that advert in Sounds, and it was a fellow called John Johnson who placed the advert, and I was one of the 3 people who responded. So we became a group, four-piece group, called the Transistors. We used to rehearse in a place called the Blackie, which is next to the Chinese Arch in Liverpool, like a community centre that's been there forever. I had lots of, I saw the Last Poets there and all kinds of gigs there and things like that. Elvis Costello played his first ever gig where he was paid. People paid to see him was at the Blackie. So we rehearsed there. We played one gig at a family party for my family. Blew up a couple of amps due to inexperience. Sprayed our name on the wall outside and split up.
God.
And then John Johnson became John Jetson, formed a group called the Jetsons. Me and John Hawkins became Activity Minimal, and Alan, the guitarist, who was 14 when in the Transistors, started a group called the Germs, and then the Glass Torpedoes.
Wow.
So
How old were you? How old were you at the time?
I guess I was 17,
Right.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So Activity Minimal, that's actually on your Discogs page as well. So
Yeah, well, that there's a lot of firsts attached to Activity Minimal. I mean, our first time we set foot in a recording studio was in the Open Eye Studios, and the engineer there was a fellow called Noddy Nola, now mostly known as Mike Nola, as a house music DJ, who used to play at the Quadrant Park and other clubs in Liverpool. But he was Noddy Nola when he was the engineer in the Open Eye Studios, and basically it was like most of the Liverpool groups from that period. It was the first access to a studio was in the Open Eye, which used to be at the end of Whitechapel, where the Queen Square development is now.
yeah,
It was all demolished, but that's where it was. There was like a cafe, a photo gallery, which is now down near the Albert Dock, the Open Eye photo gallery.
Okay.
Started off there. So you had the gallery, the cafe, you had the video unit and the recording studio upstairs, and it was all very cheap to so we booked in there, recorded a demo. So that was our first time in the studio, first demo, and then it came out on the Street to Street LP, one of our songs. So that was our first time on a record, and then John Peel wrote the sleeve notes and played every track off the LP. So that was the first time on John Peel's show, which was, as far as your ambition would have gone at that point, that John Peel played you. That was kind of like a big moment.
Yeah,
I can still vividly remember being in my bedroom in my mum's, when it came on the transistor radio, and the first time not getting paid by a record label. So there's a lot of firsts there,
Not getting paid. Well, I'm actually still on the lookout for that Street to Street, a Liverpool album, because it also includes like Big in Japan.
Yeah, oh yeah, Bunnymen's first appearance. Yeah, OMD. There's a lot of people on there,
Yeah. This I
And
looked it up on Discogs. I mean, everyone who's actually selling them are from somewhere in Europe. There's nothing sort of
right,
like in the UK, and it's quite like it's a bit
yeah,
expensive as well. So
yeah. I suggested to Cherry Red Records that they might license it from whoever owns the rights to it, but they weren't
yeah,
interested, you know.
yeah. Well, Andy Coy. Hello, Andy. I'm glad that he's here. It was his birthday yesterday, I think. I belated our birthday. So, but Andy Coy said Open Eye was amazing. And Street to Street, great Liverpool album. And Aiden, the tech support, said that he listened to John Peel most nights. So, yeah, so that was your first band. And
Yes.
how long did it last? How long did Activity Minimal last?
I'm not entirely sure. I guess about a year or something. We did quite a few gigs. We played Eric's a couple of times, which was another one ambition you always had. You know, when you formed your group was to get to play at Eric's. Played around Liverpool. Played one gig in Glasgow, at the Civic Hall. Yeah, and then just kind of ran out of steam, I guess, and yeah, fizzled out.
Yeah. Oh, it's a shame but you did play Eric's.
Yes,
Wow.
and Pete Fulwell, who was one of the people who ran Eric's, kind of phoned me up. He wanted to manage us, and he was like, he said, "You called activity minimal, so on stage, everything you should do should be maximal. You should, you know, should be." That was as far as the pep talk went. I think we split up before he had time to sort out a management deal with him.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we can, you know, John Walters, who was John Peel's producer and was in a previous life a jazz musician. He was a very entertaining character, and he phoned me up on the back of the Street to Street LP to see about us doing a Peel session. So again, it's, you know, at my mum's, you know, my mum answers the phone. Some fellow wants to do a Peel session, you know. And but during the course of the conversation, John Walters forgot that he was ringing me up to sort out a Peel session, and started taking the piss out of me instead and winding me up about the music they played. It was quite entertaining, but it was kind of like, I don't know.
Oh no! So you didn't do any Peel session at all? No.
Not with actively dismal. No. And around that time I started in Manchester. There was a musicians collective, the Manchester Musicians Collective, which was groups organising amongst themselves to play, a place to play and a place to support each other and so on. And I like the sound of that. There was like, because I had Joy Division in it, at the Fall in it, at the Passage in it, all groups I liked, and so I started the Merseyside Musicians Collective, and we kind of held our meetings in the Blue Coat Chambers, which is like the Britain's oldest arts centre. It's in the centre of Liverpool. Dick Witts from the Passage worked at a place. There was at that time there was a organisation called Merseyside Arts that actually supported artists, and because he was involved in the Manchester Collective and he worked in Merseyside Arts, he helped me organise the Liverpool
one. The Merseyside one, yeah.
But I was hoping that Bunnymen and Theatre Explodes and all the groups that were not, you know, that I liked would join, but it didn't pan out that way. You know, it was kind of I ended up getting groups who couldn't get gigs anymore because punk had kind of made them, you know, obsolete. So I gave that up, but as a consequence of that, my next move after Actively Dismal was, unfortunately, is the Passage, so we can't talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that next week. Passage, But we can talk about Modern Eon.
Oh, Modern Eon was kind of parallel to Activity Minimal, I guess. We all lived in the same house. It was a bit of a kind of an artistic kind of household where my first time living away from my mum's was a bedsit there, you know, in Egbert in the south end of Liverpool, and just a load of musicians and artists lived there. And Modern Eon were all living there, so they needed a drummer. So I said I'd help them out until they got a drummer sorted out, and that ended up going on longer than planned. So I played on the first 2 records, you know.
Is it Pieces and the one that's more sort of like
Euthenics is the other one.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. So you played drums in that as well.
Yeah, so we did Pieces in a studio called August Studios, which was in Benson Street, which is off Renshaw Street in Liverpool. And when we got to the studio, I was kind of talking to the engineer, said, "Oh, anyone interested in being in recently?" And he said, "Well, the Bunnymen were in yesterday. They've just recorded their first single, Pictures on My Wall." So we made them get the master tape out, and we had to listen to that, you know. And then we recorded Pieces, and then the second single was for Inevitable Records, which was Pete Fulwell's label. Get the RX Connection again, and we recorded that in Cargo Studios in Rochdale. When you could record overnight, it'd be cheaper because it was downtime. The studio wasn't supposed to be open. If you recorded overnight, you could get the studio cheaper. So we recorded overnight, which was when you had to kind of go back over the course of 2 days. But go back to Liverpool in the meantime. It was quite fatiguing to do that, you know.
Yeah.
Start recording at midnight.
Well, apparently they're like that in Strawberry Studios as well. The big ones, like the main sort of like the more popular bands will record during the day, and then the sort of like the less sort of like popular or the ones that are just starting.
The poorer.
So you were talking about, you know, like all the members of Modern Eon were living in the same house or the same
so it was difficult to leave, you know, because their rooms surrounded mine, you know, they were above me and next door to me, so it was difficult to get to escape.
Well, I was all going to say, because Paul Simpson and Pete the Freitas, and I think, you know, they used to sort of like live together as well, aren't they?
I used to go around. Spent a lot of time around there, you know. The Bunnyman mansions. That was a good little scene.
Well, okay, so now again, this is just gonna be random because of all the sort of like bands that you've listed. I thought I'm gonna ask you first of all about the ones that I know myself. So I want to start with Mick Head.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, you've got an amazing story about Mick Head and the Pale Fountain. So do you want to sort of like share?
Well. I guess it's not. I don't think it's an amazing story. It's an amusing anecdote at best. You're going back to when Liverpool, when Eric's was going, and a couple of the clubs that came after it, being dressed slightly different, looking slightly different. It was you kind of kept yourself to a few places where you weren't going to get grief off people for being a weirdo. And at the top end of Liverpool, near the cathedrals, was the Everyman Bistro, which was underneath the Everyman Theatre. And a couple of doors along from that was the Casablanca Club. And the Everyman Bistro became kind of an epicenter of all the arts and culture in Liverpool. So painters, actors, musicians, theatre people, everyone was kind of all congregating in the one place, really. When the Everyman Bistro closed, you'd move a few doors down and go to the Casablanca to stay out a bit later. So yeah, so we all knew each other as a consequence. We all hung out together. People would, in the Everyman Bistro, people would form a group, decide on a name, split up before the night was over.
Oh my God.
And so, I was friends with Mick and John Head from before, and they were,
Wow.
and they were starting the Pale Fountains, and they asked me to be the drummer, and I said no because I didn't think I would be able to. I know I'd heard the music, I knew what they were doing, and I didn't think at that time that I had the skills to kind of suit their music, because I was basically bashing.
You're a punk drummer, yeah.
I was just sitting there hitting things as hard as I could, and I thought that was me, as a drummer. So they kind of looked a bit incredulous when I said this to them, that I was winding them up. I was like, no, I don't think, I think I'd spoil it, So I said no, and it was only kind of shortly after that I realised, I have got the skills to,
Yeah.
play.
Do you regret not saying? Do you regret not saying yes to the Head Brothers?
Not really. No. I mean, I think they got themselves together in the right way. That what came out of the Pale Fountains were right. The people who were in the Pale Fountains were the right people.
Yeah.
I mean,
were they already called the Pale Fountains by then? Because I know that they were called the Love Fountains before that. With Ken Moss. I mean,
I can't remember, to be honest, whether they'd had a drummer before they got Jock or not. I mean, they asked me before they asked Jock, But I don't know I don't know exactly how I knew what they sounded like in order to say no, I wouldn't suit it. Mists of time. I was asked to join Teardrop Explodes as well, when I was in Actively Dismal, and I was friends with Mick Finkler, the original guitarist, kind of before Teardrop Explodes, and he said, would I be interested in playing drums? And I went to meet Mick or Michael rather, sorry Michael, and Julian in Probe Records at the Council of Probe Records one Saturday afternoon to have a discussion. But I already knew that I wasn't going to leave the group I was in, but I went anyway, just for fun, I guess. So Julian was telling me all about the group and what it was going to be like, and they were going to do this, and they were going to look like this, and everything like that. And as he was telling me all this, I said, is this guy standing behind you? There was someone standing behind with kind of Aladdin Sane, dyed red hair in a big overcoat, looking at all the picture sleeves and on the wall in Probe. So I said, is he in the group? And Julian turned around and said, oh no, he's not even a musician, he's just someone who hangs around with us. And that was Mac from Bunnymen. So I said to Julian, who was still kind of still doing his teacher training that brought him to Liverpool, and looked like he was teacher training. So I said to Julian, "Oh, that's a pity because he looks like he should be in a group more than you do." As I say, I knew I had nothing to lose, so and it didn't go down very well, but I enjoyed saying it.
And Paul Simpson was a member of the Teardrop Explodes.
Yes. He didn't know that this meeting never took place until I told him recently. I mean, after I'd said no, I was outside Eric's one afternoon, and I thought, oh, there's one of Teardrop Explodes going into Eric's, and I had a phone number for a drummer that I was going to pass on to them. So I said, "Oh, you're in Teardrop Explodes, aren't you?" I said, "There's a phone number for the drummer." Anyway, it turned out I was talking to the drummer who didn't know he was going to be sacked. So yeah, that story goes wrong on several levels.
It's just fascinating, all these sort of like connections with you, because it's the same with like Mick Head. He did say before in an interview that he saw the Teardrop Explodes on the telly one night, and then the
Yeah,
following day he was out
I
to do some
I I,
errands.
I played a part in that appearance happening because Dick Witts from The Passage was the presenter on that program, and he was already speaking to me about the Musicians Collective, and he said I want to put Teardrop Explodes and Echo and the Bunnymen on the TV, but I don't
Yeah.
know how to get in touch with them. And I gave him the number of Pam at the Zoo Records office, and that's how they came to be on the TV, make their debut TV performances.
Wow, that's just incredible. That
That's just
every
Liverpool, you
single
know.
one, you're all sort of like connected. Because when Mick Head saw Paul Simpson and said, "Aren't you one of the keyboard player that explodes?" And then so it was Paul Simpson who actually sort of like told Mick Head to go and see Yorkie so he can
Yeah.
join the band or something. I just find that incredible. But anyway, so you're also played with the Paul, not Paul Simpson, with the Wild Swans. Uh,
Yes.
Paul Simpson. So can you
Yes.
tell us more about that one, please?
Okay, I'd been in the Passage for a while, living in Manchester. We didn't have an income. I couldn't afford to stay in the group because I was starving to death in Manchester. I was having to go down round to our manager's house to get enough money to go and get some chips. So I left the Passage, came back to Liverpool just as Wild Swans were starting to kind of break out of Liverpool. So they asked me to. They had a tour coming up supporting the Bunnymen,
Yeah.
and the week before it was due. The tour. They asked if I would drum on the tour. So I said yeah, I can do that. And I said, where are we going to rehearse for the tour? He said, we're doing 3 nights at Club Zoo supporting Teardrop Explodes. I was like, right. So what does that mean? He said, well, that's the rehearsals. You can learn the songs as we play them on stage at Club Zoo. So that's how I learned the Wild Swan songs in front of an audience at 3 nights at Club Zoo.
Wow. God, that's incredible.
And a couple of days later, we went on tour.
Oh, wow. What year was this?
In December 1981.
And this was with Jam Kelly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jed Quinn and Rollo from the Wooden Tops.
And Rollo, oh yeah, of course. Rollo's the bass player at the
Yeah.
time, wasn't he? Yeah. Wow. Oh my God, that's incredible. I also because you mentioned about like not being able to afford anything and so like living in Manchester with no money and things. You mentioned to me before when we did the test and we went out so like that apparently one of the members of Modern Neon who wasn't really like a musician himself actually like became the
Yeah, that
keyboard.
was Bob Wakeland, who lived up above me in Southwood Road. He was someone who was an illustrator. He worked in a place called Modular, which was also Pete Fulwell and the landlady of Southwood Road. It's all very, if you've ever seen the Teardrop Explodes video for Reward, where everyone's driving around in a Jeep.
Yeah.
That Jeep belonged to the landlady of the house I lived in, where we all lived in Southwood Road. That was her Jeep. And she used to have all the people from the Walk, which was a Ken Campbell play that was on at the Everyman. She used to have all the cast coming back to our house, after the performance in the Everyman or the Playhouse maybe. But anyway, they used to listen to what we considered hippie music downstairs, Crosby, Stills and Nash and stuff like that. And we used to get the speakers on the stairs and blast them with punk and Suicide and stuff like that. Sound system battle with the neighbours. What were we talking about?
It's exciting times. So,
Yeah.
with this.
So Bob was.
Yeah, he was a keyboard player.
Well, he wasn't. No, he was an illustrator. He did all the Pink Military and all the Pink Industry record sleeves. He did all the Inevitable record sleeves. But he did all the video games at the time, what would now be computer games. He did all the video game covers. He's kind of he used to have comic con things where he'd be signing autographs on his posters. He's kind of a big name in that world. But he started because we used to go to Eric's. He started working for record labels and stuff. I bought my first synthesizer, an Korg MS-10, in 1979. My mum bought it for me for I had to use up 2 birthdays and 2 Christmases to get this synth, and then because Bob was doing the artwork for all the modern neon things, he came into the group using my synth. Basically, couldn't play a note. He just used to make white noises on the synth, vaguely in time. And he ended up, when they signed to Din Disc Records and everything like that, he did okay out of it, and I didn't.
Oh, I'm sure. But he's not played in all these amazing bands that you played in. So So okay, we've done the Pearl Fountains and the Wild Swans. Now Echo and the Bunnymen.
Yeah, that's quite a bit.
Guitar? Did you play guitar in Echo and the Bunnymen, or did you play drums?
Drums. Yeah.
Drums. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, that was another similar to the Wild Swan story, with a shorter time scale. I was at my mum's and Will Sargent phoned me to say, get down to our rehearsal room now, jump in a taxi. We're going on tour tomorrow when our drummer's gone missing. So you're drumming on the tour. So that's what happened. That was December. It's always December 1999. I went down to Crash rehearsals in Liverpool City Centre, and we went through the set once, which was like, I think, 18 songs or something, which is a lot to kind of absorb in.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm just
playing each song once, and so we did that, and we went to the pub to have a chat about how that was going to work. Had a couple of pints, came back, played the songs again. They sounded a bit better, and so the tour went ahead. The next day I was on stage at Manchester University for the first date of the tour. In the deep end, did the tour, and then I played there was a big Millennium gig for the year 2000, where we played in front of St George's Hall on the plateau.
Right.
We played either side of midnight. We played a few songs before midnight, and then everyone did the new Millennium thing, and then when the power stayed on, we got, the Millennium Bug didn't appear and stop the power. We carried on, and played the other side of midnight.
What's Ian McCulloch like? I mean, considering that you actually already saw him, so like just wandering around in at Probe Records, and then you actually said that he looked.
Yeah, I mean, I used to go to a lot of. I mean, before I did some drum with the Bunnymen, I'd done the tour drumming with the Wild Swans, supporting the Bunnymen. Benny Profane supported the Bunnymen.
Yeah.
Trying to think if there was another group I was in that supported the Bunnymen. There might have been. Anyway, so I already knew them.
Yeah.
You know, well and stuff. But I mean, it's funny with Mac because he used to try and tell me I wasn't from Liverpool because I lived too far away from the centre, which was rich for me.
Where did you live?
I grew up in Bootle, which is the north end where all the docks are. Yeah. So, but he's from Norris Green, and now with the aid of Google Maps, you know, you can type in a house number and get the town hall and get the exact distance. And I lived closer to Liverpool than he did growing up. Let's put it that way. So yeah, but yeah, kind of he was always trying to tell me I wasn't from Liverpool, and he was wrong. But yeah, you usually have some kind of odd, oblique conversation with Mac, you know.
But you're very good friends with Will Sargent, though.
Yeah. I mean, we've done we've worked together a few times over the years. We've done kind of electronic music projects together and things like that.
And his
my first ever remix was of the Bunnymen doing Foggy Notion. I just went in the studio and remixed it just to have a go, really try it out, you know.
Yeah. Well, the one I actually saw posted on Ask the Drummer page is your remix of Rescue.
Yeah, it's not really a remix. It was basically when we were all on Ochre Records. Paul Simpson did a lot of the Sky Ray stuff on Ochre Records in Cheltenham. Will did Glide and themes from Grind and a few other things. Okay. I did Music as the Mind Winder, put together a Coming Round the Callum's compilation of Liverpool artists for the label and stuff like that. And Cheltenham Ochre Records were having an all-day festival in Cheltenham for the 5th birthday of the label, and me, Will, and Paul drove down to it because we were all up here and they were playing live and I was DJing, so we all went down together and stayed in the same house and so on. And as a consequence of us knowing that this day was going to happen, I just sampled the guitar from Rescue and built a track around it just to play at this festival, really, just to wind Will up, which it did. He got very angry with me. I thought he might see the funny side, but he didn't. So that was that, really. That was the end of that. I played it. He said turn it off. I turned it off, and we forgot about it. And then a few months later, he phoned me up and said, "Have you still got that track that I hate?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "We've got a single coming out, and we need unreleased tracks for the B-side. Can we use that?" And I was like, "Yeah, go on. We can. Everyone can hate it." So it was never really meant to be heard beyond that one time that I played it in Cheltenham. It was just a bit of fun.
But now it's actually on this album, which is B-sides.
Yeah. I mean, I actually got in touch with the record label, and I think the BBC involved it in some way, and I contacted them just in time because I actually got the last copy that they had in existence, because it was a record shop day thing.
It's
they hadn't.
Day,
they had not, so they had one copy left, and then after that it was gone, you know. And I got that copy just phone. I found out about it by accident and phoned them up. I mean, when it came out on the Bunnymen single, I phoned up Cook and Vinyl, who had a cool indie Brighton label, and said, "Oh, hi, I've done that remix, and I've given it to you for nothing. Can I have some copies of the CD?" And they said, "Oh no, we can't give it to anyone. Just give it to anyone." I said, "I'm not just anyone. I'm on the record."
You're the one who actually did it.
Yeah, And as I mentioned, I've given it to you for nothing. You're not paying me for it. And they still wouldn't give me a copy. So the Bunnymen had to give me copies out of their stash. So that's, showbiz.
You haven't had any sort of like luck with some of these people. But like I mentioned to you before, that it actually, every time I hear rescue, it reminds me of Ian Brody, and
Right.
it's his birthday today, so
Oh,
very
yeah.
very happy birthday to Ian Brody.
Only I've been in the studio once with Ian. He produced a Benny Profane single.
All right. Have you worked with Ian Brody?
Yeah, he produced a song called Skateboard to Oblivion.
Okay, of course. Oh yeah, that's right. I was gonna say, God, I've forgotten what I was gonna say now. Yeah, because this single, actually, the one that you did, which is the remix of Rescue,
Yeah.
it's because there's no vocal, so it's like just like the
Well,
sound.
as I said, it wasn't a remix. I didn't have access to any
No,
of the
no, it was just
original tapes. I just got the guitar on its own, replayed the notes on the keyboard that had the drums and everything else over them. There's two notes at the end of the riff that you can't isolate, so I had to kind of replay them on a keyboard to get the complete loop of the guitar riff, and then just
I was just gonna say, so after listening to that one, it sort of like makes you want to listen to the actual song because
something good.
Because you want to sort of like hear the words, because it's actually
I couldn't actually remix the song because I didn't have the actual separated parts.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, we mentioned Benny Profane, and I should have known this because I do have a copy of that Skateboard to Oblivion 12-inch. So I should have known that it was produced by Ian Brody. But anyway, so I've got a question for you about Benny Profane. Brian Price, who's the drummer of the Flatmates, and he's an amazing drummer as well. He said, please ask Joe why he never used any cymbals other than hi-hats with Benny Profane. Was it a dislike of them, dislike of cymbals, or did you just not have any?
Well, with Benny Profane, I think we just decided to at the start of the group, we decided that it was just going to be very kind of stripped down sound, very no kind of flourishes of any kind of ornamentation. It was just we're going to keep it very basic and primal, and it was also just good because if we hired a minibus instead of getting a van, instead of getting a transit van to put all the equipment in, if we hired a minibus. And took out the back row of seats and didn't tell the hire company that we'd done it. If I just had a bass drum, a snare drum, and a hi-hat, we could get all the equipment in the back of a minibus, and everyone had a comfortable seat.
Oh. So you just didn't have any of those cymbals. It's not because you don't like cymbals.
It was a kind of a response to what the music I'd been playing previously, probably because, like say, with the Passage, I had a lot of drums because it was kind of very intricate music, and so there was a lot of different textures required on the drums, which required a lot of drums, and it was a bit of a reaction. Stuff I did after that was a reaction to that. I kind of wanted to see what I could do with less.
Just the basic.
Yeah, and still come up with something that was interesting to listen to.
Yeah. The Benny Profane came after The Room, right? Or is that?
Yes, The Room. That's another group that I was asked to join and didn't. I went to audition, not to audition, to rehearse with The Room, with the new lineup at The Room at the time, which was Peter Baker and Paul Kavanagh. Were joining at the same time as me, and Paul was the one bringing most of the ideas for new songs, and Paul was in his jazz phase, so it was all a lot of clever chords, and it just didn't appeal to me. So I apparently at the I'm told that at the rehearsal I didn't play any drums, and I sat there pretending to read a book, but making it obvious that I wasn't reading the book by holding it upside down. So that's how I didn't join the room. And then
But you joined Benny Profane.
yeah, I did one gig with the room supporting Killing Joke at the Royal Court. Because Alan Wills, who was the drummer, who went on to start Delta Sonic Records and everything. Alan was the drummer, but he burnt his hand just before the gig, trying to put out a chip pan fire. And so he couldn't drum, so I was drafted in to drum at that one gig for the room. Which, you know, I knew the songs well, so it was easy, really. And then the room came to an end, and I got together with Dave and Becky, and there was the three of us. We tried out a few guitarists who we weren't happy with. So we did our first demo in Amazon Studios, and I asked Will Sargent if he'd play guitar. So he played guitar on our first demo, on 4 songs, and then we got Robin Surtees on guitar, and then we carried on from there. Then I started writing songs because I'd been playing the guitar for a while. So then we started getting drummers to play half the. It got very complicated because I'm left-handed and all the drummers were right-handed. So we'd be playing gigs, and halfway through, I'd switch from guitar to drums. We'd quickly have to turn all the drums from right-handed to left-handed. So we had a song with a very long drumless intro called Stitch That, which gave us time to swap the drum kit from right-handed to left-handed, and annoy every sound engineer that we worked with. And we did that for a while, and then eventually we got a drummer who played instead of me, and I stayed on guitar for the whole.
Yeah. Well,
so
you so happy with that? So like playing the guitar instead of the
it's just more rewarding, you know. After you've been hitting things for a long time, it's more rewarding to
play something different.
yeah, and you know, be part of the creative process of writing the music rather than just rhythmically, you know.
It's just really strange for me though, because like I said, you know, I do know about Benny Profane, but it was so like because I've always known that it's Dave Jackson of the room and Becky as well.
Yeah,
I've only just looked at it on Discogs, and it's actually got a photograph of you with them as well. But I just didn't know that you're the drummer. That you're the drummer of Benny Profane. It's just crazy that. It's obvious showing on seeing your Facebook page that people know Joe McKechnie, and even though it's like
in a good way. You mean in a good way?
But it's like
I don't know the money.
You don't get to hear you know, a lot about, you know, I was mentioning it, so like my colleague at King B, because he's like, you know, it's like he knows quite a lot about music. And,
well, he obviously doesn't, does he?
But it's like
he's been lying all this time. He's been lying to everyone. He knows nothing about music.
But anyway, so we're going to talk about another the room connection, Chinese religion, which is Paul's.
Yes, you're going back to 78, 79 again. There I play. They were recording a single, and I played in Amazon Studios in Kirby there, and I was drafted in to play on the A side. My Motive, yeah.
That's
I actually
part.
went on to work with Dave, the singer, Dave Lee. We had a group for a while who rehearsed where Modern Neon rehearsed in Duke Street in Liverpool, above modular design. And that was just drums and vocals. I've got like a load of reel-to-reel recordings that we recorded of just Dave singing and me drumming. That no one's ever heard except us two. And Dave died a few years ago, unfortunately. So.
Oh no.
So I've got the tapes, but I haven't got the means to play them. You know.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, nowadays you can sort of like maybe.
Yeah, Yorkie's got the means. You know. It's,
yeah.
I mean, we've jumped ahead actually because before The Room and Benny Buffet and all that, I was also in The Balcony, 1984 time with Yorkie and Steve and Paul Sangster.
Yorkie is also another musician, a Liverpool musician that's played in loads of different bands as well. And I believe that I have seen the video about Yorkie's mum's house. That's the hub. I think
Gladys, yeah. When we used to rehearse in that basement where the Bunnymen, Teardrop, and everyone practiced. And when we used to turn up at the house and Gladys would come answer at the front door, it's funny because I was the only member of The Balcony who was allowed in through the front door. The rest of the group had to go round to the back of the house and go and get to the basement via the coal cellar.
Oh God, why is that?
She didn't like them. She liked me. She didn't like them. It's quite simple. I used to get a cup of tea. They didn't. I used to get a sandwich. They didn't.
Yeah. Because from that film, she used to make like loads of toast and tea. So you were part of that hub. You were part of that sort of like Liverpool like hangout. Paul Simpson was there and Ian McCulloch and like Julian Cope and everyone.
Yeah. I mean, you look at on the vinyl version of Crocodiles, on the inner sleeve, there's a photograph of the Bunnymen playing. That's in Yorkie's basement.
That's so good. Apparently, that's where Mick Head went to as well. So like,
that's
well,
one basement, a whole scene.
Yeah, that's right. Also, the one I remember, Pete Wiley was there as well.
I've heard of him. Yeah.
Now I don't know if you.
Although I don't remember him. I don't remember him from Yorkie's basement. I have to say, or Yorkie's house.
It's really so like strange you mentioned that, but I think I don't know if it was Paul Simpson who said exactly the same thing, that he doesn't remember like Pete Wiley. So like
I mean, first time I met Pete Wiley was in Eric's, and he came over to me in Eric's. I didn't know him, and he came over to me and he said, "You're Joe McKechnie," and I said, "That's right." I said, "Yes, I know." That's what I said. I said, "Yes, I know." And he said, "I'm Pete Wiley." I said, "Yes, I know." He said, "I know you don't like me, but I like you." I said, "Okay, thanks."
Sorry. What?
That's my Pete Wiley story. It's the only one I've got.
Oh. All right, so I'm not going to ask Graham. Is it Graham Smiley or Graham Smiley?
Graham Smiley, Graham Smiley, the trouble-causing East Kilbride character.
Oh, okay. So, I'm not going to ask her. Sorry. All right.
No, there was, Probe Records in Liverpool, the shop.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, they're always kind of on the verge of having to close down and shut up shop and everything, and at one point in the 90s, they were struggling to pay the bills, and so there was a benefit gig organised that I was involved in with Robert Parker from the shop and Martin Campbell
Oh,
and some other fella in leather trousers, and we did a one-off gig to raise money for Probe Records, which Graham videoed with one of his friends. I can't remember her name, but Graham videoed it. Yeah, and for that gig, the group was called War Hell.
oh, so you did play. You did play drums with Pete
Uh,
Wiley.
that's I've given you all the information
Okay.
about what happened on that night.
Well, that's good. That's all right then. Well,
I've described all the participants.
Well, we're gonna move on.
I've explained that Graham Smiley is a blackmailer who films people and then threatens them with the footage.
All right. Okay. Well, we're gonna move on to some playing with Kit, because
Oh yeah,
because Len Sangster, they do. So like I've got to say, Len Sangster is absolutely amazing, and Len said that Joe's the best, amazing musician and amazing person as well. So you stood then for Jake.
yes,
Yeah,
at Cafe Berlin on Bow Street. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about it. I've seen it on Facebook as well, being so like, a lot of people actually post things and posters and things like that. And I keep saying about Cafe Berlin. Where was that?
It was
And where is it
77
now?
Bow Street.
What's Cafe Berlin now? Do you
It's
know?
a restaurant of some sort. Up the top end of Bow Street on the left as you're walking up towards the church. 77. It's hard to. It's just number 77 is the best way to find it, because the front of the building has been changed so many times that it doesn't.
Yeah.
You don't go, oh, that's where Cafe Berlin used to be anymore, because it doesn't look anything like what the venue that you remember as Cafe Berlin. But yeah, it was. It was while it was open. I used to put the posters up around town advertising the gigs and all that. So I kind of did a bit of work there, and I get paid in black bean pie, because they used to do. Margaret, who was the chef there, did a mean black bean pie. Yeah, the Bund. If you know the Bundu Boys, big John Peel favourites. They were a fantastic group. They played in tiny Cafe Berlin, but all the Liverpool groups played there. Benny Profane, they played there a few times.
Yeah.
Marshmallow Overcoat. A lot of comedians who've gone on to be TV and stand-up circuit stars appeared at Cafe Berlin when no one had ever heard of them. It's got this history that I can vaguely remember of things. It was just one of those places that interesting things happened in. Paul Kelly and his brother Brian opened it. Paul does something in films now in Ireland.
Yeah.
But yeah, for a brief period of time, it was the place to be.
Yeah.
And on the closing night, it was very Art Deco, the whole building at the time, and the women's toilets up the top of the stairs had a very ornate powder room before you actually went into the toilet itself. And on the closing night party for Cafe Berlin, we had a Sabutio tournament in there, in the ladies' powder room. And I'm terrible at Sabutio, but I won the tournament.
Oh.
against people who played Sabutio at a professional level.
Oh.
Kenny Manson.
Well, Kenny Manson.
Yeah, I beat him in the final. He's never got over it.
Now, Kenny Manson, I believe, was.
He'd be sending me abuse on Facebook right now.
Do you know the first time I've heard of Cafe Berlin was when the Railway Children posted about it.
Right.
The
Okay.
Railway Children played there as well.
Yeah.
And it sounded like an amazing live music venue. It's a shame that it had to close down.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounded like you're the drummer to go to if they, if a Liverpool band needed
Internationally.
Well, how easy was it for you to just learn?
I mean, another group that kind of called me in without any kind of, rehearsal or help or warning was Subway Sect. When Subway Sect came to Liverpool to play the Williamson Tunnels for Harvest Sun, it was Harvest Sun Promotions' first ever gig that they promoted. I was booked to DJ at the gig, and then Vic Goddard from Subway Sect phoned me up and said, our bass player's just signed to Atlantic Records, so he's not going to be able to do the gig. I was like, all right. He said, so our drummer's going to play bass, so can you play drums? I was like, I guess so. I said, shall I come to London and for rehearsal? He said, oh, you know the songs, it'll be all right. So I drummed with Subway Sect, playing all the songs that everyone knows. Nobody's Scared, Ambition, etc., without any rehearsal. And then Kenny Manson was at the gig, and he wanted to hear the B-side of the first single, Nobody's Scared, and the B-side was Don't Split It, and he kept shouting out for Don't Split It, and Vic said, we can't play that one, I don't know it. And Kenny said, well, you should know it. So Vic said, well, you play it. So Vic sat on the side of the stage. Kenny jumped up, and we did. He sang Don't Split It. That's the type of person you're dealing with Kenny Manson.
But it must be so you know the songs already, or is it just?
Well, I at that time I had access to a recording studio where I actually had my drum kit set up for people who were recording in the studio to use when they booked into the studio. So I just had an iPod with the songs on and put the headphones in and drummed along in the studio on my own a couple of times. To the Subway Sect set.
But not just Subway Sect though, but even the other bands with Kit and just so
with Kit it was like an exchange program because Jake, when we were doing the thing where I was playing guitar, Jake had drummed for Benny Profane when we played in Dingwalls in London. He sat in and played for Benny Profane. So basically, they had me over the barrel. I owed them one. So I
Oh God!
When Jake was away on holiday, so I was drafted in.
Yeah. I just find it amazing that you can actually do, especially touring with Echo and the Bunnymen, and you not rehearse with them. So
it was stressful. It was stressful. Because I'm not a session musician. All what I call I call them the current buns, all the session musicians who play with the Bunnymen over the years, because it seems pretty stable now, but it's a rotating lineup of musicians. So I always call whoever's playing with the Bunnymen at any given time the current buns, and the rest of them were all session musicians, and they didn't understand that why aren't you a session musician? Why are you here? I was like, because I'm mates. I made the mistake of being mates with them, and it's a mistake. This shouldn't be happening. So yeah, it was stressful. I mean, we pretty much played the same set, every gig. So over time, I got a bit more familiar with the songs. Except there was one gig in the middle, Wolverhampton or somewhere, I can't remember, Bristol maybe, that I just heard Mac mumbling something on the microphone. This is a new one, we've never played this before. Called something something candy, and I'm like looking at my set list going, what's this? This isn't on the set list. And Mac came over to me on the drum kit and said, it starts with the drums. To which I could only reply, I've never heard the song. To which Mac replied, well, it starts with the drums. I replied, I don't know how it goes. This is in the middle of a gig. And so Will comes over to try and help. And he says, just play a Beastie Boys beat. So I'm kind of okay. There's more than one Beastie Boys beat. So I played the Zeppelin one that they sampled. I played that. And everyone joined in. And we did the song. And it finished. And Matt came over to me and said, what was that? The song doesn't go like that. I've still never heard the song, by the way. I don't know. To this day, I don't know how the song was supposed to go. Because I've never heard it.
Oh my God. No, I just think it's amazing that you can actually do something like that even though you don't know what the song is like. What the song is like. Anyways, any other bands in Liverpool or Liverpool bands that you played in that I haven't asked you? Because I think some of them you did put, you did give me a list, but I've not heard some. So
yeah.
But any important ones that you wanted to talk about?
Drumming wise, there was a few more playing guitar, but drumming wise, more recently, Star Spangled Banana.
Is that Liverpool? I thought it was like a Manchester band. No, is it
Liverpool? No, it's Robert Parker again from what's his name for Star Spangled Banana? Can't remember now. It's basically a probe shop centered group.
Okay.
And I did some drumming with them for a year, just floor tom and snare, stand up. I've got a back injury that really stops me drumming anymore, but I'm okay standing up,
Yeah. So that was the last time you played drums with
Star Spangled Banana,
yeah. There's another one that I actually forgot to ask you.
Country Mess. I was playing guitar with Country Mess.
Yeah. Well, there's one from Dead or Alive. Is it Mike Percy or something?
Oh, Mike Percy. Yeah, before Dead or Alive, me and him again, and it was in Modular in Duke Street, the same place where I had the drums and vocals group with Dave Lee from Chinese Religion, and I had a drum and bass group with Mike Percy. Mike was on bass guitar and vocals, and I was on drums, and we rehearsed in Duke Street, wrote a few songs, and forgot about it. Gave it up. He joined Dead or Alive.
Was it? I did look him up. I can't start thinking where did I put the name of the bands that Mike Percy was so played in? Is it Moderate? Is it Moderate? Is that what it's called?
The Moderates.
Moderates, yeah. Or I don't know. I can't even.
Well, I was never in the Moderates.
You're not. So it wasn't that one. Okay.
The story with the Moderates is we did when the Street to Street LP came out.
Yeah.
We did a launch gig at Eric's, which featured 3 bands: Modern Aeon, Activity Minimal, and the Moderates, who were all on the LP. I was drumming with Activity Minimal and Modern Aeon.
Yeah, yeah.
And I realised that if I played with the Moderates in some way, I would have got my hat trick and played with all three groups at the gig. So while the Moderates were on, I stood at the side of the stage. They didn't know I was there, and played tambourine for a couple of songs. So I did play in the Moderates, but it wasn't official, and they don't know it happened.
You played, but they didn't know that you actually played with them.
Yeah. I was on the stage, but behind them.
Okay.
Playing tambourine.
Yeah.
And then after 2 songs, I left again, and they never knew that it happened.
Okay. Sorry, I was like...
you've just got to, you've got to...
like really funny.
Sometimes you've got to do things that aren't very nice, just to get on.
Well, I'm going to ask you about something different now, because when we had John Coughlin on Ask the Drummer, you actually sort of like
I watched that one. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, and you sort of like told me that you actually did an acid house version of Pictures of Matchstick Men. Now
I did, yes.
I looked it up on YouTube because I was sort of like wondering.
Oh, it was never released. It was basically it was a fellow called Bob Young who was he played some mouth organ with Status Quo, but he was basically a non-performing member of Status Quo. He wrote the words to the songs. Okay, he came to Liverpool to work for Cavern City Tours, the Beatles people, and he put together the Hillsborough benefit that happened at Anfield.
Okay. Yeah.
And while he was here, he had the idea to put together an LP featuring covers or remixes of groups that had played at the Cavern originally. Someone told him that I was a DJ because my brother was the manager of the Cavern Club at the time. And so someone told him that I was a DJ. And so he asked me if I could advise him on house music and dance music. I was like, I'm not very, it sounds a bit naff to me, this idea. So I said, I'll help you, but I don't think it's a good idea. But anyway, so as a consequence, I spent a lot of time with Bob Young. We talked about music, and we had a lot in common with our interest in country and all the rest of it. And he was just a lovely fella. So then it got progressed to, would I create some beats that they could take into the studio to record these remixes. And bit by bit, I was drawn into the project until I was producing the project. So I went into the studio and recorded a Kinks remix, 2 Status Quo remixes, and another one I can't even remember. I haven't got it. And Bob was going to take this project to. He was going to do 2 things with it. He was going to take it to AMI to see if they wanted to release it, and he was going to take the DAT to Status Quo Studio. Asked them to play it without telling them what it was and see their reaction to these house mixes of their songs. AMI told Bob to get lost, that it was a stupid idea. I never got to ask Bob what Status Quo thought of it. I would have loved to have seen their faces when it came out of their studio speakers at high volume. But I had basically, at the end of the project, I handed over all the recordings to Cavern City Tours because they paid for everything. And that's it. I've never heard them since. I've no idea what they sound like.
And you don't know where it is? You don't know where it is now? You didn't keep it for yourself?
I wasn't allowed to keep any copies of it. I might have a cassette somewhere, but I don't know. I wouldn't know where, So I've no idea if they've aged well and suddenly they're not as bad as I thought they were. But yeah, it was great. Basically, it was Bob Young had some great stories, from his time. He's done various projects, and of course he did the he did the Hillsborough gig at Anfield, which was a big success.
Yeah. Because there's like a trip house version or something. Because I thought maybe it could have been you, but it's
The Kinks song was a bit kind of trip hop, I think, but
yeah. So
without hearing them again, I have really no idea. It was kind of like
yeah. Well, the one that I found that's really good though is a version by the Divine Comedy. I think the
okay,
version pictures
right.
of Music Man.
I mean, I remember the pictures of Matchstick Men was my favourite because I just basically looped the guitar riff and kind of did an acid house track with it, and it actually worked, But I did that independently of what I'd been asked to do. I kind of threw that in. I kind of snuck that into the studio session.
Oh, it would be nice to sort of like hear it because I did.
Yeah, I don't know.
You never know. Maybe someday.
Everything came together. Everything fell apart again, and it was like that was the end of that.
God. Well, we're gonna ask you about your DJing because you're also called DJ Tempest, and again, it's when you're producing things, it's Mindwinder and things. I'm gonna ask you about that next week.
Okay.
Because it's like an hour and a half. I'm sure we'll still have sort of like another maybe hour and a half to us next week. But what I wanted to ask
I am noticing that I kind of look like I'm in a sauna because of the heat in this room. Let's call it suntan.
Well, I'm gonna ask you now, do you get recognized when you go out?
Do I what? Get recognised?
Do you get recognized? Yeah.
What, as a failed musician?
Like a drummer, yeah. So like a prolific and ubiquitous
Not
drummer.
that no, I don't think so. I doubt it.
Because that's the one thing that I actually find interesting. It's really interesting in Liverpool, especially. It's like, the first time I met up with Paul Simpson. We went to the Grapes, and he did say that he doesn't get recognized in Liverpool. He can go to any pub he likes, and no one would actually sort of like know who he is. And I was like, that's.
Well, I think I don't know whether it's true of elsewhere, but I think people who recognise you in Liverpool, they I mean, there are occasionally, over the years, people have said, "Oh, you blah blah blah, you're so and so," and the first thing I say is, "Do I owe you money?" And if I don't, I'll own up to it. But I think generally it's kind of like people who do recognise people from groups that they like and stuff like that. They tend to just leave it at they've recognised you, and that's enough, You don't need to.
It's a Liverpool thing because I think I don't know whether it's true, but it seems like Liverpool, like maybe half of the population are musicians anyway. So
yeah.
So it's not like there's only a few of you who are famous. There's actually quite a lot of Liverpool musicians that just sort of like walk around, and even if you do,
getting in the way.
They just sort of like, oh, there's so and so, and there's sort of like Paul Simpson. Oh, there's me.
Yeah. Who do they think they are?
Because again, I mean, I remember sort of like seeing Dave Jackson outside the Grapes as well one time. And
yeah. Well, that's not a rarity.
Because I was sort of like thinking, coming from the Philippines originally. I mean, especially Paul Simpson. If you sort of like go to a restaurant or a bar and you see Paul Simpson there, you'd be like, oh my God,
Yeah.
There's Paul Simpson, and then they'll ask for photographs and things. But in Liverpool, that doesn't seem to.
I don't think that, and even when all those groups were first kind of starting to break out of Liverpool and stuff like that, there's only. I I mean, I saw it when I was obviously when I was when I did the tour drumming for the Bunnymen. I saw as we'd be getting onto the tour bus, you know, there'd be people waiting to have their photos taken and stuff like that with Will. You know, Matt usually wasn't around, but they'd want a photo with Will. I was usually the person who got handed the phone or the camera to take the photo. You know.
Oh.
which is fair enough, you know. You know, I wasn't lit up on the stage. You know, no one knew I was there. So you know.
Oh God! But do you get starstruck yourself? Do you sort of like see a musician you like, and it's like, oh my God, you know, that's.
I don't no. I mean, I enjoy the fact that I become friends and work with people who brought me to where I am now. You know, in terms of my musical development. So getting to play drums with the Subway Sect, stuff like that, and then from that, co-writing a song with Vic Goddard on one of his LPs. Still working in theory, working with Vic to this day. Getting to approach people and say, oh, you know, I like you. This is what I've done, and they say, oh, that's good. Yeah, let's work together. That, you know, that element that's opened doors. You know, to working with the people who you would be very glad to work with. That's been good. Yeah.
Yeah, but is there a musician that if you meet them, you'd be like, wow, I want a photo with you.
Well, I'll tell you what. The only time it was a bit. Benny Profane did a tour. One of my favourite groups ever from very early on was The Fall. So it was nice to get to although we can't mention it, to work with Martin Brahmer. In more recent times, but Benny Profane did a tour supporting The Fall. December 1988. December again. But in 1978, I think it was, when I was drumming with Mod Neon, we played in the Electric Ballroom in London.
Okay, yeah.
Supporting The Fall. And we were in the basement. The basement, our dressing room was in the basement, below the basement. Kind of like that scene in Spinal Tap where they get lost backstage. We were in the depths of the venue. You couldn't get any lower, you know. And so that was our dressing room. And because we were in London at that time, 78, I think it was, maybe 79, the rest of Mod Neon had gone to McDonald's to have a burger because at that point in time, there was only a McDonald's in London. So as a vegetarian, I had no interest in this. So I stayed in the dressing room on my own. And as I say, I was, you know, The Fall were like, from hearing the first Peel session, seeing them at Eric's every time they played. Yeah. And Marky Smith made the effort to come all the way down to our dressing room to make sure that we'd been given some beer to drink and some food to eat, and that we were being looked after by the venue and the promoters. Yeah. And that was just, I was like, whoa, there's Marky Smith, you know. And because I was on my own in this dank basement, that was about the only time I was like, wow, someone I admired is talking to me, you know.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, because you'd think he'd be, I don't know. I mean, I'd never had the chance to meet him, and of course he's gone now. But I thought it would be someone like a bit aloof and maybe not.
Yeah,
Really
I think. I think he basically grew into the character he created in interviews and on stage. He kind of a bit like Mac. When he got away with stuff, he carried on doing it. If he realised, no one's telling me to stop or give me a punch in the face. I can get away with this stuff. When we did that tour, Benny Profane tour with the Fall, I only really had one proper conversation with him. We had a song called Pink Snow, which we usually opened our sets with. I played guitar, and we had a conversation about that song. He said he liked that song, and he said the sound of it, he thought it would sound really good if we recorded it in a Russian recording studio in what was still the Soviet Union at the time.
Yeah.
Using all our old equipment and old microphones would really make that song sound authentic, So I enjoyed that conversation because shortly after that, Benny Profane did actually do a tour of Eastern Europe, and Western Europe. We toured West and East Germany. We toured Poland, Latvia, Lithuania. We played in Leningrad.
Oh wow!
So Prague. We played all over there. We just never got to record there.
God, that's amazing. That's really interesting. But yeah, talk about Martin Brummer. I'm gonna ask you about Martin Brummer next week. And Factory Star and Blue Orchid.
I'm just remixing House of All at the moment.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's right. Because you did.
I remixed them last year. I'm remixing them now.
Yeah, so you're still in touch with them then?
Yeah.
Well, I'll ask you about that next week. But before I let you go, because it's nearly 2 hours of trying to.
Is it?
Yeah.
I told you, and I said an hour. You promised an hour. You can have 10 minutes next week. 10 minutes only next week. Be ready. Have your questions ready.
I always ask them, if you're not going anywhere after the show, so at least I can do overtime. So I'm gonna ask you this regular questions that I always ask, so that I don't have to ask you about it next week. So, do you twirl when you?
I do, but I haven't got any drumsticks here. So I brought Eric and Ernie. That's Eric and Ernie, Morecambe and Wise.
Oh, right.
On the maracas.
Do you actually? Do you use that?
Yes. Well, when I was on drums, our standing drummer would do percussion sometimes. So we made them, and these the Eric and Ernie maracas. The real people were recording in Parr Street Studios, and Tony Elson, the drummer, phoned me up and said, we're just in the studio in Parr Street with Jimmy Miller, the Stones producer and all that, and can I borrow some of your percussion instruments? Can you bring them down to the studio? So I filled up a bag of percussion instruments and went down to the studio and walked in to hand them off for them to borrow. And Jimmy Miller just said, have you got any maracas? I said, yeah. Showed him Eric and Ernie. He said, go in there and stand in front of that microphone, put the headphones on. So put the headphones on. They played me a track. I played the maracas. Then I played tambourine. And you've got to bear in mind that Jimmy Miller, as well as producing the Stones, plays percussion on a lot of the records. It's him on the cowbell, on Honky Tonk Women and things like that. So he could have played the percussion, but he asked me. So I did that. I played the maracas, played some tambourine, and to this instrumental backing track. and went home again. And when the LP and the recording was all finished and it eventually came out, it's Marshmallow Lane. Because
yeah.
both me and Tony and Chris from The Real People are from Marsh
Yeah.
Lane. You know, we went to the same school.
Wow.
I said, oh, which song am I on the LP? And they said, don't you know? I was like, well, no. I was just shoved in front of a microphone, played along to an instrumental, and let's be honest, all your songs sound pretty similar. And you know, I played what I heard it twice. I was playing along both times, concentrating on staying in time. So no, I don't know which song I'm on. Don't you? And they didn't. So to this day,
You know, you still don't know.
I'm on the LP, but I don't know what song I'm on.
Yeah, when you mentioned that you're from Bootle, I was gonna say that The Real People, they're like Bootle legends, aren't they?
Yeah.
And Cook the Books.
I used to the pubs that my brother's band played in. One of them was the Jawbone in Bootle, which used to have a Wales Jawbone on the wall, and Cook the Books were kind of one of the groups who played there a lot before they started writing their own songs. They were basically a Wings, as I remember it. They just did Wings songs. They were like a Wings tribute act before tribute acts ruined music forever. That's how I remember Cook the Books before that they started doing their own songs and records and things.
Yeah.
But I went into the Motor Museum on Lark Lane with The Real People. They'd written a song for a female singer who was with the same management company, and she'd recorded this song with them in the studio in the Motor Museum, and they asked me to come in and do a remix of the song, and bring my decks and sampler and all the orchestral maneuvers stuff was in there anyway. Went in on Friday afternoon, stayed in the studio round the clock till Sunday afternoon, and we started with the original song that Chris and Tony had played, and with the female vocalist. I added new drums, I added new bass lines, I added new keyboards, I did some sampling, I did rework the vocals, and from Friday to Sunday, Chris said, "Oh, let's try it with my bass guitar back in." So I put the bass guitar back in. Oh, it doesn't really work with your drum beat. Let's put the original drums back in. Anyways, we started with the song on Friday. We did the remix that totally changed it. And by the time we got to Sunday afternoon, it was back to the original recording, and none of the stuff that I'd done was left. They just took it all off again. And when I asked them about that a couple of years later, they didn't even remember doing it. Didn't remember writing the song. Didn't remember the weekend where we remixed it and remixed it back to where we started from. They had no idea. They didn't know what I was talking about.
Wow. Did you play with the Real People?
No. Well, I'm on one of the tracks.
Apart from doing the recording, it's all like you didn't go on tour with them.
No.
Okay. What about Cook the Books?
No connection there at all, really.
But do you still go and see them live? Because they're still going. I mean,
the Real People. I've not seen them recently. I have seen them quite a few times.
Yeah.
I mean, Tony Elson's one of my oldest friends, you know.
But do you still go to gigs apart from rock events? Something do you still?
Yeah, I go to gigs. Yeah. Don't ask me what I've been to. I can't, you know.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna ask you about drumming heroes. Do you have any drumming heroes?
Yeah, I've got a few probably. Pretty much every drummer who played with Captain Beefheart, from Drumbo to Art Tripp to Robert. What's his face? Robert. can't remember his second name. I saw Captain Beefheart when he played in Liverpool Rotters in 1981. That was fantastic. I like loads of drummers, really. Yeah.
Yeah, that Captain Beefheart. That's one of those bands that you hear a lot of, but I don't really know any of. That's something. I think it's one of those bands that you've got to know, and you've got to sort of like maybe look it up on YouTube, because I mean, especially King B. You know, you see all these records. It says Captain Beefheart.
Yeah, I mean, the Showmash Replica, is not where you want to start with Captain Beefheart. You want to
Is
start
that
with
the one with the trout? The
yeah.
trout. Yeah, yeah.
That's the kind of like the difficult album.
Oh, I see. But that's
There's
like
kind of the earlier stuff is kind of like there's Blue Eyed Soul in there and all kinds of different things, and
yeah.
Bat Chain Puller, which is one of the later LPs, is my favourite. Bat Chain Puller.
What's it called?
Bat Chain Puller.
Okay, yeah.
That's got some great songs and all kinds of different feels and styles,
Yeah. I'll keep an eye out for it, because the one that I always see is that trout mask.
Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah. What about disasters? Have you ever had any sort of like drumming accidents in your playing the drums?
There's the first Benny Profane gigs were all in people's house parties. So we played in like a student house. First party was in a mate's kitchen. That was our first gig. Our second gig was in the living room of a student party on Mossley Hill Drive around Sefton Park. And basically for the first few gigs, we decided to drink a different bottle of spirits before we went on for each gig, to kind of get into a different frame of mind for each gig, and also just to get through them, because they were our first gigs. So for the second gig in the house, in the living room of the student house around Mossley Hill Drive, we drank a bottle of mezcal, I think, before we went on, and I fell off my drum kit and was lying on the floor behind the drum kit and decided to stay there. So I was just reached my arm up and hit the snare from the floor until someone came and got me back on the drum kit. And we finished playing, and someone said, REM are here. They've just been playing in the Royal Court, and they've come to the party, and they've just watched you play, and they want to say hello. So we were brought over to and introduced to REM, who the four of them stood in a line laughing at us, and the only comments that they made about what someone said, "What did you think of the group?" And one of them said, "Nice fretless bass." Now I don't know whether they meant Becky's bass playing or the actual guitar itself. They never elaborated on it. They just that was pretty much the end of the conversation. Nice fretless bass. So that was that. That was our second gig and our meeting with REM.
And did they stay? Did they stay at the party?
I have no idea. I was very drunk. I drank most of a bottle of mezcal. And the other one is another Benny Profane one, not so disastrous really, but I fell off the back of the stage at the Boardwalk in Manchester with Benny Profane. That was just down to the fact that the stage was vibrating so much while we were playing that it bounced my drum stool backwards off the back of the stage. So I went backwards off the stage, but luckily the wall was fairly close, so I just fell so far and then hit the wall and was able to, retain some of my dignity, if not all of it. I also tripped another Baby Fame gig. I tripped over my own guitar getting onto stage and knocked it out of tune, which wasn't the grand entrance we were hoping to make.
Oh goodness me! Well, talking about because The Room, I believe, is gonna release a new album soon as well in
Yeah,
October.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Did you so like? I mean, are you still in touch with
I speak to Becky now and again. Yeah,
yeah?
and I have son who plays keyboards in the group.
Right. Okay. So, well, hopefully, I'll see you in one of the Room gigs because, I mean, the one that Mike Mooney is he's released an album, and he's supposed to sort of like do a gig to promote
Yeah,
this album.
Mike Mooney. I originally wanted to be a drummer. I
Oh, really?
I tried to give him some drum lessons when he was a kid,
Yeah.
and he wasn't. I could tell his heart really wasn't in it. And I was right. He didn't become a drummer, but when he lived on Sunnyside with his mum, I tried giving him a couple of drum lessons. Never
Yeah.
having given a drum lesson to anyone in my life, so not having the
Yeah.
terminology down pat and anything like that. But yeah, I did. I tried to help the lad, but he just wasn't interested. He just wanted to mess around with guitars.
Well, he's got a new
He
album.
could have been on Ask the Drummer.
Yeah. Well,
He'll regret it now. He did actually ask me to do some drumming with him a couple of years ago. With his sister Sally, who I know, she was playing bass, and he wanted me to drum. I had to explain to him, because of my back injury, that I wasn't drumming anymore.
Yeah, yeah. So is that it now? You're not going to play drums anymore, or?
No, except as I said, I can do it standing up. Lots on a snare.
I mean, you can still play the maracas anyway and tambourine.
I've got Eric and Ernie there, yeah.
Yeah. Well, my last question before I let you go. God,
yeah. I need some oxygen.
What would be your advice to aspiring musicians? Or aspiring drummers especially?
Have an income from somewhere else.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant yeah, but you can still make a career.
We've got a situation now where it's become a rich person's pastime, to a degree, being in a group, because you're going to struggle even when you've got an audience to create an income from it,
Yeah.
That's why you've got such terrible music, because it's rich people making it. There's no suffering. You've got to suffer.
It is a very good advice.
Instead, they make us suffer. Listening to them.
Well,
Keep rich people out of music. Keep rich people out of music.
Well, I'm gonna let you go now, because as you said, it's like being in a sauna in your room with your tube amps and everything. So
yeah,
but we're gonna be back next week, and we're gonna be talking about. Hopefully, it's not gonna be.
I might have to switch my biggest fan on next week.
Yeah. So I'll see you again next week.
Yeah, and we'll talk about Manchester.
We'll talk about Manchester, yes.
Manchester.
And Subway Sacked, although we didn't really talk a bit about Subway Sacked, and all the others, and the Passage as well. I've got to say that I haven't got a Modern Neon sort of like record. I mean, we've got it at King B, but I didn't get it. It's quite expensive. But I do have a single by The Passage, so I'm going to use that next week. So.
Okay.
So I'll see you again next week. Thank you so much, Joe. I'm so sorry that too hot there where you are at the moment. But
Yeah.
hopefully, next week.
It's a suntan.
Is this hopefully next week it'll be a bit more so like comfortable and not too
Yeah.
hot.
Yeah. I'll have
All
the
right.
door open.
Yeah. Well, see you next week for part 2
Okay.
of the Joe McKechnie extravaganza. So,
Yeah.
but for now, enjoy.
You couldn't put that on the poster. People would want their money back. The Joe McKechnie extravaganza. What? Do you know what extravaganza means?
Well, I'll see you again next week anyway. So
Bye, everybody. Bye.
See you, Joe. Bye.
Hope Quimby. Hope Quimby.
Oh, thank you so thank you so much, everyone. I'm so sorry. I mean, I did say before that I should really start doing less of a giggle, but Joe McKechnie is just so funny. It's like I can't help it. And I'm sorry. I mean, my train of thought as well is like some of them is like laughing too hard. I've forgotten what I was going to say. But anyways, thank you all so much. And Joe is going to be back here next Sunday. We'll be talking about the Passage and Blue Orchids and Factory Stars, Subway Sacked and all the others. And I'm going to be asking him about his being a DJ, producer, and all these remixes that he's done as well. So I hope you'll come back next week and enjoy the rest of your weekend. And thank you all so much. And as always, love music, love life, love drummers. They're absolutely amazing. I've got to apologize that I've not heard of Joe McKechnie until that time in February when I saw him at the Paul Simpson book event. But now I actually realize how amazing, incredible to be able to do all these songs for all these different bands as well. And I always find fascinating that if someone will just call you up and say, okay, can you do this? Can you play drums for Echo and the Bunnymen? I was like, yeah, of course. I was like, how did they do that? It's almost like they already know the songs, and as if they've been playing with them for a long time. But anyway, so that's how amazing Joe McKechnie is, and look forward to hearing more of his awesome stories next week. But for now, bye everyone. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and see you all again next Sunday. Bye.